Yo, let's go, and welcome to the video. This is going to cover the bosses in the lower Spire and ICC 25 Heroic, starting with Lord Marigar. For this fight, we're going to want to be in melee range so that we don't have to dodge those flame paths that keep coming out of the boss. So once we get 4-piece tier 10, I should be able to use Focus, Starfall, and Insect Swarm. Most guilds are lusting or using heroism right on the start of the fight, so get those treants out one of your first GCDs or right before the pull. Use your Insect Swarm to help you get into position in melee range. And then I'm popping Starfall early, even though you could hold it for 20 seconds for the first bone spike. But just in case I get impaled by that first spike, I want to have that cooldown on cooldown. And then it should be available for about the third bone spike, so you can help your raiders get unstuck. I wouldn't throw dots on them, like no Insect Swarm really, no Moonfires. Just cast on them, get a couple wraths out, make sure that wrath is going to actually land, or throw a Starfire or two on them and get back on the boss as soon as you can. And all your damage you're doing to the bone spikes counts towards your parse. A lot of parsing Boomkins are just going to completely ignore those and let their other raid members take care of it. Hopefully, a lot of the spikes are in melee range to get cleaved down by your melee squad. But if your hunters that are out soaking get spiked, I'm going to help them out. But by ignoring those, it'll help your personal DPS. Clear it with your raid leader first before you just ignore the spikes. Make sure your raid's going to be fine. Bone Storm is something that we can take advantage of in a couple of ways. One way is by having Alkin Frenzy. As the boss is going back and forth across the room and hitting you, most likely, you could be getting some Alkin Frenzy procs, which means you won't have any spell pushback while he's going back and forth across the room. Another way to take advantage of this is putting thorns on yourself. It's not going to add much damage. It's going to be about as much damage as like a Serenite bomb at the end of the fight, so maybe 5k damage. But if you're trying to top those meters, everything helps. So obviously the more times you get impaled, the lower your damage is going to be. So fight length has a bit to do with your damage. The longer the fight, the more of a chance you have to be impaled. The fight length for my guild right now is just over 3 minutes, about 3:15, 3:20, but the top Boomy parse is under 2.5 minutes, and they're doing 12.8k DPS. I checked their uptime of their tier 10 2-piece, and it was over 20% uptime from having 6 procs of Omen of Clarity. So our tier bonus is going to be huge on this. And one extra way to get some Omen procs on this fight is melee weaving. If you haven't watched my video on that, go check it out. Once you're geared up a little bit, it could be something that gives you even more uptime on that tier 10 2-piece. That's it for the first boss. Let's get into the second one. Lady Death Whisper. A bit longer of a fight, so we should be able to get 2 uses of our treants. I pop them right at the pool, and I hold Starfall for a couple of GCDs to wait for the ads to spawn. So if you're looking at the boss from coming into the room, on the left side there will be 2 of the fanatics, which is what casters are supposed to be targeting. So I try to position myself towards the left side of the room and wait for those fanatics to spawn. There's a little bit of a window where the ads will have spawned, and it is safe to Starfall without hitting any of the mind controls. So it's about 15 seconds into the fight. Could be a little bit into your lunar, but getting multiple targets hit by Starfall is worth it. So kind of like the bone spikes from Marigar, unless I need to reposition, I won't be really dotting these too much. Hopefully they're dying really quickly, so just throwing out a couple wraths and Starfires. These ads can apply a curse, and hopefully that curse is being kicked so that we don't have to help decurse. And also, just for reference, the top Boomy parse currently only used Cyclone 2 times in their 4-minute fight, whereas I'm casting way more. So if you can have your CCs covered, if you have enough druids where they can take care of the cyclones, you've got some like a warlock friend that can fear the MCs, help you out, let you have a parse week, see what you can do. Damage done to all the ads counts towards your parse, including damage to mind controls, but I mean, come on. During phase 2, the ads only spawn from one side, so if your Starfall is coming off cooldown, keep an eye on the MC timer. Just try to be in position of whichever side of the room you know those ads are going to be spawning from. So unlike Marigar, I would not have Glyph of Focus on this fight, since there's a lot of movement, maybe Starfall, Insect Swarm, and either Starfire or Moonfire, whichever you prefer, since most likely you'll have both dots up from having to reposition. I've seen Alkin Frenzy proccing on this fight from the Frostbolt volley in phase 2, and also from one of the cultist abilities, so just something to consider. I'm a big Alkin Frenzy fan, and it's proccing on a lot of fights in ICC. But that's it for Lady Death Whisper. Let's get on to the final boss to talk about in the lower Spire. Because yeah, we're not talking about gunship. For this boss, I like standing as close to the little platform as I can in case I need to use Typhoon to knock the adds back. But Typhoon's damage to the adds is reduced. Starfall is not, so I try to pop Starfall immediately on the pool, and 40 seconds into the fight, it'll still be on cooldown when the first set of beasts spawn. But having a Starfall for each pack helps with getting aggro on them to either you or your fellow Boomy, so the melee aren't taking melee swings from the Blood Beasts, and it makes the fight go a lot smoother. If you do have a close position to the boss, I would suggest using Starfall, Focus, and Insect Swarm after you've got your 4-piece tier 10. If you're a little bit too far away, and you find that your Starfall is not hitting the boss in the adds, then you can use the Glyph of Starfire instead. Then you'll have to keep up both Insect Swarm and Moonfire during the fight. The Blood Boil mechanic in this can proc Alkin Frenzy, so yet another fight that I have at least 2 points in Alkin Frenzy. In the top Boomy parse so far, after 3 resets, is just over 13,000 DPS with about a 3.5 minute fight time. So since it's over 3.5 minutes, you can have 2 uses of Treants for at least a couple more weeks until raid DPS increases, which gives Brambles a bit of extra value here. So if you can avoid it, don't dot the adds, just single cast on them, Wrath, Starfire. They're not going to live long enough for the dots to expire, so it's a better use of GCDs if you just do a cast or 2 on them. So to me, it kind of feels just like a patchwork fight. You're not really moving at all, and you can really just do your rotation and pump as hard as you can. And that's it for the first wing of ICC. Good luck getting those high DPS parses, get those 90 pluses, and I'll see you in the next wing soon.